House and the Senate Republican, but he got it done with the House with Nancy fucking Pelosi. So that's the problem with these leftists. We don't think about this type of strategy. So I agree with you 100%, Nick. We got to stop. When is enough is enough. That's what's going on.
Well, say I'm about to just slightly reset the stream here. Ooh, we're about an hour and a half, and my stream is giving me a good reason to call it there. 1 second. I'm gonna ask my stream doing. Also, we can take a few more questions. I had enough story here. I might do it if I can get the stream to recover a little bit. 1 second.
And just to
Go ahead.
comment. One of my biggest parts of why I transitioned to the left mostly is I started off as really on the left as a social democrat. I did a lot of my research on Franklin Roosevelt of the 1920s, 1930s, 1940s. Then I did some research about Theodore Roosevelt in the early 1890s, really to early 1900s. Minus the imperialism, of course. And then I learned about the 1960s in terms of the civil rights movement, in terms of social programming. So I really admire those efforts. And I feel like if we had left this, if we understand about how American politics works versus international politics, if we can combine the knowledge of both together, we'd be very much unstoppable.
Here,
And if you look at really the 1930s, starving, Congress not dealing out any funds to help people during that time. And if you look at it today, all it takes is courage. All it takes is for one politician to stand out and say, hey, this is what I stand for. This is what I believe we should do. What I've come to learn is that politicians in general are inherently selfish. They're only going to, and that's why I call out Bernie too, because Bernie Sanders cashed in his entire fucking movement for his good friend Joe Biden. And politicians are inherently selfish. They're only going to do something that elevates their own status, whether you like the politician or not. That's why when they're politicians, you're supposed to push them, even if they are your friends. That's why it's healthy to go after AOC. That's why it's healthy to go after the squad. That's why it's healthy to go after Cori Bush,
Yeah.
Rashida Tlaib, any of these new progressives, because you have to show them, hey, I'm your friend when you're advocating for the issues we fucking put you for. Once you start doing the other bullshit, I'm going after you. Because look, any grassroots movement person, I'm not gonna put the gloves on, okay? You're not in a big position of influence. But once you hit the political sphere, the gloves are on, baby. Because we're not gonna allow you to use our appeal and our prestige to enhance your own political power, which the establishment will use to crush us. So that's
That's well
basically
said.
all I have to say.
if I could just push back a little bit on what you guys were saying with Trump versus Biden, and that Trump winning would be the better
Yeah,
outcome of
for
those
free.
two.
For free.
My philosophy on that position, I never once advocated that anybody vote for Joe Biden. I don't give a fuck if you voted for Joe Biden or not, because like we've been talking about throughout this video, pretty much all leftists would agree with, our influence, our leverage just doesn't, it's not coming from voting at the top of the presidential ticket. It just isn't with Joe Biden versus Donald Trump. That's not where we never had our leverage there. We lost our leverage there as soon as Bernie Sanders dropped out without, using his leverage to acquire specific things. And so I don't really see as though voting for Joe Biden or not voting for Joe Biden would have made a difference either way, or that Democrats would learn if every leftist had decided, if we could have corralled every single leftist and said, we're all voting as a block and this is what we're voting for, that would have worked. But, that just wasn't the case. And so I think a lot of leftists made the calculation that they would rather be fighting Joe Biden than Donald Trump. And my
And
biggest criticism,
I think that's a legit argument. Go ahead.
and my biggest criticism was against people who, were delusional in thinking that Joe Biden was going to be like the next FDR or something like that. That would be my main criticism. But I also don't think that enabling even a stupid fascist like Donald Trump is the short or long term better outcome than enabling, if you want to call it enabling, neoliberalism for 4 years. I mean, it's like we don't have a good option here. We just didn't. And also with the Green Party, you can say what you want, but if we're going to hold Joe Biden accountable for every vote that he failed to earn, we got to do the same thing with the Green Party. The Green Party has been around for decades, and they did worse this time, right, than they did in 2016. Why the fuck is that? You stand for the things that we stand for. What's the problem? What's the institutional problem with the Green Party? You know, like what are the messaging problems with the Green Party? Because I'm going to hold them accountable for every vote that they failed to earn as well. Because if you're not seen as a viable alternative, why aren't you seen as a viable alternative? It's not like this process has just begun in the last couple of years.
And I want to add to that. You made some very good points, and just one thing I will add is that Donald Trump has a grip hold on conservatives. So when Donald Trump signals that bullhorn, all the votes are going to him that are conservative. Okay, Joe Biden was the kingsmaker of liberals. So when he sounds that bullhorn, all the liberals are going to him. When Bernie Sanders, he holds the leftist progressive vote. So when he signals that bullhorn, everybody's going to go to him. Now, the question you asked earlier is why Green Party didn't do well, simply because Bernie Sanders actually controls like 70% of their voter base. And so he's telling everybody to vote for Joe Biden and these Democrats. That's why even Jesse the Body Ventura, he's been the independent candidate. That's why even a lot of independents have some questions about Bernie Sanders, because he's killing the very constituency that could be moved to pressure the establishment. And so that's why even a lot of people, it's very hard too, because in terms of, presidential elections and in terms of down ballot, when you're telling people to vote for, some of these Democrats, and not everyone's lucky to have a progressive that's running in their certain district. So you tell them to just, hey, suck it up this time, vote for Democrats that are traditionally progressives that generally could vote Green Party. You're taking away Green Party votes, which could be used as leverage against them. And so that's kind of the phenomenon we have.
Sure. And I think that, I would have liked to see Bernie Sanders run on the Green Party. I think he would have legitimately stood a chance if he just ran on his agenda against these two clowns. But, we didn't get that. I think you're 100% right. It was a huge mistake of, the figureheads in Bernie Sanders who really wield that control over the left. It was a huge mistake for them to not leverage that power up front, and it just kind of meddled the whole thing.
Yeah, with that said, do you guys see what happened in France? With them burning shit down? So
French is badass.
People
think
I'm delusional because we get upset that Bernie Sanders and the squad does not wield the power like I think we should. Now, the only way we can really organize this kind of thing, because me and Beth, we was having a lot of conversations with the bourgeoisie alien on Twitter about a general strike in the summer. I'm gonna see if I can pull that tweet up I had. But there was a viral tweet, and it was a great tweet. Don't get me wrong. I'm not calling out the lady that made this tweet. Okay, it got like 100,000, 200,000 likes, and she made it last week. Well, she was like, you guys ever get that dreading feeling knowing that the government abandoned us? And that tweet we made last week, I'm like, that's a great tweet, but we've been calling for this shit since the summer. I've been saying that since the summertime, bro. And people was calling me deluded, like, how you gonna call for a general strike? Do you know what that entails? Do you know how much work that would be? I'm like, yes, I do. Actually, that's the point where we are at right now, and we could have results like France if we had the mindset of like, all right, we got to be in this motherfucking struggle. We can have real change, because what France did, France shown that protesting works. Because they got the government, they're like, oh shit, I'm going to put the article up here so I can get the information in front of me. There it is. France ruling party agrees. I'm going to put up my stream here. It says France ruling party agrees to suspend and rewrite controversial Article 24 security measure that has sparked nationwide protests. And this is the kind of movement you can get in government when you put citizen pressure on. And I wanted to show this tweet about Beth. Let me fix my screen adjustment here so I can put it on the screen. Damn it. But it pretty much pictures of the protests. I'm gonna get pulled up here in 1 second, guys. But the idea that liberals have, they're like, oh, you can't riot. You can't riot. That's disturbing the peace. That's how you turn public sentiment against your cause. It doesn't help. That's what Jen Clyburn said. He's like, that's burn, baby, burn mentality. But that was exactly what French has done. And my criticism of the progressive movement is like, bro, we could be doing this shit. Like, we could, if you have Bernie Sanders and AOC, someone who actually have power, they can organize these kind of strikes. Just us as people, because this is something that we realize. We realize that as ordinary citizens, we don't have the power to really necessarily organize a general strike.
And it's also just
you see the picture I pulled up on my. Sorry, go ahead, bro. But I just pulled a picture on my stream so you guys can see some of the images of the protest they have there. But go ahead, homie.
Yeah, it's also just, I think, has a lot to do with the differences between the working classes of all of these different countries. I mean, the working class in the United States is treated like shit more than in basically any other developed country. Like, we have barely any like union strength relative even to countries like France. So it's harder for people to engage or get their mind wrapped around something like a general strike, because if you're literally struggling to put food on your table and you need every single paycheck in order to do that, which is like a majority of our country, like it's insane the position that we're in financially. But so our country has basically made it almost impossible for people to do that organizing or be able to like temporarily, put that on hold, because we're just in such a shitty position.
He said, one of the comments, voice server, the cop on fire gives me life. Maybe you need to roast more pigs here and they get the fucking message. I'm sorry. See, you guys, I've been influenced by Rome too much. That's why I love having Rome on, because Rome made me seem like a fucking centrist. What are you about to say, RJ?
My thing about
I was on Rome's stream actually a couple, I think it was last week, so it's pretty dope.
Yeah, go ahead, Mac.
No, I was just gonna say about like the whole violence thing. Like, I'm not pro violence or anything like that, but I think that it's just ridiculous the amount that people talk about this violence. Like, the Department of Homeland Security classified spray painting a federal building as a violent act. And so it's like, if you're talking about that compared to the institutional violence that people are protesting, it's just not even comparable. It's ridiculous. Anybody who's hyperventilating at the thought of like a cop car being burned or anything, they're just delusional as to where the real problems lie. Like, I was in Atlanta earlier this summer at one of the protests that popped off at the CNN Center, and I was literally walking down the street as people to my left and my right are smashing cop cars and setting them on fire, doing all this. I never once, while I was at that protest, felt threatened by any of the people that were protesting, even the ones who were smashing cop cars and lighting them on fire. But I did feel threatened by the police that were at that protest. And I think that's like repeated a lot at a lot of these protests, is like, even when you're talking about the violence being perpetrated by protesters, it is absolutely nothing in compared to the violence that's coming from the things that they're actually protesting against.
Yeah, one thing I will say is we shouldn't really let the establishment have the monopoly over violence, because anytime that's happened in American history has not been good. I mean, look at the civil rights movement. I mean, police were literally beating the shit out of black people, throwing them over bridges, beating them to death, and water hosing them. So this isn't, specifically new in American history. So we as a younger generation, we kind of have to look back at that and say, well, shit, history repeats itself if we don't fight it. That's what all our grandparents tell us. That's why they put the burden on us to step up. And so really, even our politicians now that are in our age, we as progressives, we have to call this out.
Yeah,
I don't see it. Go ahead.
No, sorry. Go ahead, brother.
No, you go ahead. You go ahead. I'm good.
All right. So the point I was about to make is, I definitely understand the argument that we should engage in violence, and I'm not gonna push back on anyone who actually espouses that. The only question I will pose to people is, what is the necessary reaction to state violence? The stimulus checks, not taking care of your people, not having monthly relief checks, only giving us a one-time $1,200 month relief check, while millions of Americans about to go homeless in the middle of a winter, and you guys are going on vacation, I would define that as violence. I don't know about you guys. I would define that way.
100%. If you wield the power to be able to affect change on that scale and you're just choosing not to, yes, I 100% would classify that as violence.
So I understand people who morally object to it, and I personally wouldn't engage in it myself. I don't see myself doing it. I'm not a violent guy. But I'm not going to actively condemn people. who do it. Because if you are a single parent with 3 kids and the government fails to take care of you when you've been laid off after the coronavirus and you can't feed your kids, that is about as bad as what you can. That state violence is as bad as any individual violence that you can sell to me, in my opinion. So I'm not get mad when if someone punches someone in the street and the other guy respond. I'm not gonna get mad at the guy who would defend himself. No one would. So why would I get mad when people respond to state violence in kind? That's where I
And
fall in line. That's where I fall at. Go ahead, RJ.
And just to make a historical reference again, because I love history, and
Yeah,
just
I love
look
you
at
do
look
that.
at the French, what they did. I mean, just look what our forefathers did. In the 1930s, right? The farmers, they revolted against their city ordinance because the judge there like ruled against them and refusing to give them loans so they could buy beans or buy livestock, right? They literally yanked the county clerk out of his office, threatened to hang him
Yeah.
to death unless they helped him out because they were all starving, broke, and poor. Now, I'm not saying we have to go out there hanging people, but it just does relate to the French history. I mean, the French history has a huge history of, violence, staunch revolutionary anarchist cell movements that happened because the systems in power there were screwing the very same working class. That's why Great Britain, after Margaret Thatcher died, people pissed on her grave because how bad she was.
Yep.
And so we as Americans, we kind of have to, when it's warranted, shit on these politicians who fuck us over, call them out, and be anarchists sometimes if needed. I mean,
So our
I mean,
comments are fire right now. Sorry, sorry, bro.
oh, go ahead.
I keep interrupting you, bro. My bad.
Oh no, read the comments. I wanna hear the comments.
Voice server said property is theft. That's the real theft. And he said that in response to someone saying property damage is not violence. Not Jason may be. The outrage over violence or just bad faith attempts to undermine the necessary movements fueled by righteous anger. Damn, that's a good point, bro. Provoking such violence in order to paint the movements as illegitimate and not have been part of the state playbook for ages. Sorry, I tripped all over that. But yeah, the point was, yeah, that's what they always do. They literally, there's a famous political cartoon where Martin Luther King Jr. is talking to a reporter, and he said, once again, there would be no violence or rallies. And then the political cartoon had all these everything littered around, showing they were implying that the civil rights movement was just a violent, illegitimate movement. So that's a great comment because he brought up historical reference because they did this in the '60s, where they were trying to smear the civil rights movement as violent and unhinged because that is how they illegitimize protests. So whenever people bring up violence to me, I actually don't even take the line I put now because when people are like, oh, why are you supporting these violent protests? I'm like, bro, they're not violent. And then what they said, they're like, it is violent. I'm like, no, studies show that 97% of the protests are peaceful. So what are you talking about? Why are you deflecting? And then once you do that, they are forced to cover it because this is very simple propaganda they do. So that's a great point, bro. I'll let you finish your original thought, RJ, if you still have it.
Well, I kind of lost it, but what
It's
I
all
will say
good.
to wrap it up is that, I think you should learn about. I think what we as leftists we should go after now is we need to go after the farmers, go after rural America. I mean, historically, since really 1964, the Democratic Party has consistently lost voter blocks in rural areas, like consistently over time. And so the right wing says, okay, we'll come right in. And what they do to smear Democrats to see they want to do all this loud, outlandish, utopian ideas, we're just going to stick to the bread and butter issues, mud in your pocket, chicken in every pot, car in every garage. That should be enough. So we as leftists, that's actually an opening for us to come in and go after those votes. Because can you believe this? During the Democratic primary, the Democratic Party literally fucking said during the Democratic primary, "Oh, Joe Biden's going to be so electoral because he's winning the Southern primaries in the Democratic Party, even though the
Yeah.
South is completely against Democrats in the
And
general."
that's
Like,
why they
can you
got hurt
believe
down
that bullshit?
ballot. Biden and Kamala Harris hurt them down ballot at the end of the day. No, and that's why I had I changed my handle for a while too. Nancy Pelosi hurt Democrats down ballot because that's who they was running against. They was running against Nancy Pelosi the entire time, and I still truly believe that it wasn't for coronavirus, Trump would win in a landslide. You made a great point that Democrats lost working class voters, and actually, I think I pulled it up. I think I'll talk about when you was on show, I believe, RJ. Well, I pulled up a very interesting article. I think Washington Post ran it, where they did an analysis of areas that Trump won and areas that Trump lost, and Joe Biden actually, this shows how stupid American politics is. Joe Biden running on Trump's failure to respond to the coronavirus and his failure to handle the economy, he won people that was doing well, the upper class. And then you look at counties that were the poorest, Trump won the counties of the poorest counties in the country. So how did that happen? That shows how bad propaganda is. Because Trump ran on a strong economy. But Trump won the people that were suffering the most. Meanwhile, even though he ran on a strong economy, he was struggling against the upper affluent white classes.
It just shows you
How did that
exactly.
happen?
I mean, it just shows you like that's what happens when you have two people at the top of the ticket whose only message is "I'm not the other guy," and they don't have any like, "Here's how I'm going to materially improve your life in these ways," and you just don't have that. Then the void is going to be. It's absolutely absurd that the Republican Party is becoming the party of the working class. With as corrupt as Democrats are, and we talk about it all the fucking time, we call out Democrats all the time. The Republican Party still manages to be more corrupt. I mean, unashamedly corrupt, and they are just the party of big business and corrupt interests. So the fact that they're able to win over, Southerners or rural voters or working class voters better than Republicans with like, whatever it is, just like race baiting stuff or whatever else they're running on. Is more a testament to the Democratic Party's failure to get their message out than anything, I think.
So I just saw this because I wanted to do a story on this. This is a good time to segment into this. It kind of backs up why I think whether Biden or Trump win didn't really matter, because this came out last week. Biden privately pushing for a smaller stimulus deal as COVID surges. So he called, to sum up the top line here, he said he calling on Democrats to compromise with Senate Republicans so they can get a smaller stimulus bill. And this is, in a nutshell, why Democrats lose the working class. This
So
stuff
can I
right
ask you a
here.
question though?
Go ahead.
Do you know the details of why he wanted a smaller stimulus? Is it smaller money for corporations or smaller stimulus for the actual American people? Because the truth is in the details.
Yeah.
So
I
like,
hear
do you
you.
know it? Because to me, Joe Biden never actually goes into fucking details. Like, he'll give you hints about where he wants to go, which is already right wing, but he never actually ever goes into detail about what his policies actually entail, and that's what fucking scares me the most.
And that's why I was raging during the debate, because I didn't see a lot of people saying it. And I was like, bro, do you guys hear the way they are framing these questions? Like, they will ask Biden about the coronavirus. They're like, how do you feel about Biden's handling of the Trump handling of the coronavirus? What were you doing the coronavirus? And then Biden be like, yeah, I will have a national mask mandate. And I'm like, okay, so what did that do about the homeless crisis? And throughout the whole course of the debate, he would never been asked about the homelessness crisis. He was asked, and I was actually shocked they asked this question. They asked him, do he think Nancy Pelosi should accept the deal? Now, that's a decent question, but the question that's a good question is, Joe Biden, when you become president, will you support monthly relief checks? And I've been paying attention throughout the entire campaign. Joe Biden would not ask that question one time. They asked him, will you provide additional relief? Which he said he would. He said he would provide another check for Americans. But he never, ever committed.
When he does that, he'll do the whole, like, we need to, our small businesses and stuff, which is like, okay, good, but you're kind of skipping over the
yeah, you're skipping a big part. Yeah,
workers and people who are like unemployed and stuff. Like, you can't just go straight to the business side of it.
Yeah. So what? Going back to Trump and MAGA. One thing that Trump and MAGA they always say, and we can wrap up pretty soon after a few more questions. They will say, well, the only reason why we even lost, the only reason why the economy is doing bad is because of coronavirus. And me and RJ, we made this point before. I talked about this on this show. When the whole coronavirus thing first hit, I didn't roll out Trump losing. You know why? Because Trump could have easily taken coronavirus and used it to his advantage. Why I say that? Do you guys remember the first time they came up with the monthly relief checks? That measly $1,200 payment? What happened? I remember there was Black Twitter. There was people on social media like, Trump bucks. Trump, my homie, bro, he gave us a paycheck. I don't give a fuck, bro. Like, that was the mindset for a long time. I don't remember if you guys remember that, but Trump bucks were literally trending on Twitter.
Right.
Because people were literally celebrating they got that check. They're like, I don't give a fuck if you're an unhinged racist. I don't care about anything else. He took care of me and my family this one time. And then Trump dropped the ball. and shit got bad for people again. They forgot all about it. They're like, fuck that Trump buck shit. Trump failed. So the reason why I say that, because imagine if Trump, he didn't even have to go as far as Bernie Sanders. Scrap $2,000 a month. Imagine if he did $1,000 a month. Just 1,000. And imagine if he, not even Medicare for all. Medicare for all who had COVID. If he did those two things, he would be buying by a landslide. 100%.
And just
I had no reservation of saying that. He would be Trump by a landslide. If he just did the very, they're not even ideology. Taking care of your citizens had nothing to do with ideology. Because Trump could easily came out and justified his use of socialism. He's like, oh, this is a virus. I'm gonna take care of you people. I told you guys, I'm a different kind of president. We going through this crisis. I'm gonna take care of my people. If Trump like came out and said shit like that, the right wing would be like, yeah, Trump is the man. They would have not said anything about that. His approval rate was skyrocketed, and he would have won by a landslide. Sorry, RJ, and then you go right to that, Mac.
I mean, there's two things Trump did good, which was crucial, that Obama did not do. I mean, Trump literally canceled all federally backed renters. So, like, if you're renting from somebody that's like federally insured, you don't have to pay rent. And then also too, he canceled student loans for a certain period as well, which didn't happen the last crisis. And just to get back to Donald Trump, I do believe coronavirus is what killed his presidency. Just like Watergate killed Nixon, just like Vietnam killed Lyndon Johnson. Yeah. I mean, if you look at, just treat a peak Donald Trump was during the State of the Union. When Rush Limbaugh got the Presidential Medal of Freedom, that consolidated the racists in his party. Then he had a military coming home ceremony. That gave all the pro-military people a celebration. They even had a Tuskegee Airman there in the State of the Union. So even some black Republicans were happy. Trump made everybody happy. I'm like, holy shit, we cannot fucking beat this guy. So coronavirus itself is what killed his presidency. But what killed him, too, is that even Donald Trump, during this pandemic, talk about, well, maybe we should just, let Medicare, pay for everybody's hospital bills. And the leftists were like, holy shit. Even Jimmy Dore put out multiple videos. Holy shit, Trump is out lefting Democrats yet again. But the problem with Trump is, which actually is common throughout his whole presidency, is he always listens to Republicans. And that's and what's confusing about Trump too is even when he ran, he said, I'm not gonna fucking listen to you guys. You guys are total losers. Learn from me and we could win.
He fucked up because he started listening to them again. And that will cost him.
So that's the crazy part.
And then, so it's funny because anyone who follow my Twitter, anyone who follow my channel, know that I made fun of Russiagate to the maximum extent. I had unbelievable disdain for Russiagate because essentially what Russiagate was a way for the Democratic establishment to deflect from the failures of Hillary Clinton, deflect the failure for their team so they can continue to get jobs. So instead of them focusing on the Hillary campaign and the people who work for the Hillary campaign, like, damn, these people really, really fucked up. They can blame on Russia so they can continue to get hired on gigs. That's why Neera Tanden is about to get hired again, by the way. So that's in a nutshell. I broke it down many times on my show why they did Russiagate. It's a complex. Everyone wins with Russiagate. The intelligence community wins. Democrat wins. The only people that it doesn't hurt is the only person that hurt with Trump. But now, after making fun of that for a long time, because that's how liberals coped with the election, and conservatives will make fun of him as well. Now we have this story I'll talk about on Twitter. This is from a few days ago. I'm gonna screen share it so you guys can see. I think it'd be easier that way. A donor who gave $2.5 million to a pro-Trump group looking to election fraud wants his money back after disappointing results. The reason I'm making fun of this because I saw this story like, y'all definitely gotta do a segment on this because I'm consistent in my beliefs. I was like, bro, you can't go on a coping campaign after you lose in general election. Like, oh, this is why we lost. No, the earnest is on your candidate because when you look at the two parties, they both have a media infrastructure. Like you have propaganda war. You got giant Fox News. You have giant right-wing radio hosts that kill liberal radio hosts in general. You have right-wing propaganda machine, the Blaze News, Blaze TV or whatever. Candace Owens, the whole group. Then Joe Biden had his media empowerment. Because what we complain about as Bernie supporters, we complain about media bias, the fact that they're media black house. There's none of that if you're a Trumper. It's even. You got two media going after each other, so there's no excuse. And that's why I made fun of Hillary. You had no excuse for losing that election. Trumpers are complaining about an election being rigged against them when they can't even win a popular vote. So I don't want to hear it, bro. You guys lost the popular vote by 5 million, and you want to convince me that this election was stolen from you, bro? This election is rigged in your favor. You want to talk about how it's stolen from you? So I found this story super funny, and this is why I always want to bring up the fact that Trump was like, "Oh well, COVID the reason why we lost," and now they in the state of disbelief now that they lost to a guy with a broken brain. Who literally hid the entire time. So I always thought that was funny. The fact that they always complain about Russiagate and all this. Meanwhile, you got Trumpers giving up $2.5 million trying to get election fraud. That's how bad they coping. It wasn't.
I mean, I think a substantial portion of them still genuinely believe that it was stolen. Like, but even if
they do, it was a poll. I don't know the exact number. I need to find
all you have to do to know that it's bullshit is just look at the fucking court cases, dude. If you have the evidence that there was massive fraud, you would be winning these court. These are Republican judges in pretty much almost all of these court cases that are basically like, hey guys, like, you know, I want to help you do this, but you got to give me like a little bit of evidence, and they couldn't even meet like the bare minimum threshold. They were getting laughed out of court. So like, for anybody to think that this election was legitimately stolen, it's honestly embarrassing at this point.
And just one thing I will add, though, is that Russiagate and, you know, it's rigged by Trump. It's really fueling this partisanship, and it really started with Russiagate. Yeah. And the reason why I say that is the intelligence community, Hillary Clinton, Democrats, said, oh, the Russians, you know, that's why Trump won in 2016. The Russians interfered. But yet again, this time around, now that Joe Biden has won, oh, this is the cleanest election of all time, you know.
You see Russiagate went away, right?
Right, it's literally pissing me off. Like, I'm literally like, this is on CNN, by the way, the same talking point on CNN. I saw it on 60 Minutes last night. I literally wanted to kill myself. An ex-Trumper, so basically a grifter who worked for a company that used to be sponsored by President Trump, broke away because now it's not, you know, politically expedient nor money expedient in terms of making money. Now he went on 60 Minutes saying, oh, this is the cleanest election of all time. It's really gonna, and it's like the Democrats don't think that the Republicans are gonna stretch this out. I mean, Republicans are still pissed at Benghazi. They're still talking about Benghazi, and they don't think that Trump and the Republicans are gonna stretch this out for another 8 years. Like it's literally pissing me off. But that's actually their strategy by the Democrats. They don't want to fucking do the stuff we want to do, so they welcome the backlash, because then they can just say, well, see, the Republicans, they're meanies, they're bullying us, you know, we can never do the stuff you want, that it's their fault. So that's why we're stuck.
I just saw this on Twitter. Neera Tanden is really thirsty for that position. Like, she removed all mentions of her bashing Susan Collins from her tweets because she needs her vote. And now I saw that earlier today, and I saw one that said she removed the term progressive from her bio, like she was tricking anyone, and now she put liberal in there. Like, how thirsty are you for this for this appointment? And then Republicans always said it's not gonna happen. They always said, like, hell nah, not her. I don't know why they draw a line at Neera versus any other one. But Dave Schroeder just made this tweet. I mean, we already kind of broke down, but for any new viewers right now, Schroeder just came out with a tweet a few hours ago. Neera outed us. Yeah, I remember that story where she outed a sexual harassment victim. Physically assaulted a co-worker. She busted a union. She pushed for Social Security cuts. So with those things saying, what Schroeder is pulling out here is like, bro, how can you oppose Rahm Emanuel but not be okay with this? I just saw that tweet right now. That's a great tweet, but I will be following the Neera Tanden story, and pretty much the whole Biden cabinet picked pretty closely. I actually don't think Neera will get approved. What do you guys think?
I don't think it matters. I mean, if you're going to go with the Trump mindset, like half of Trump's fucking cabinet is unconfirmed officials that are just like his acting.
That's a good point.
Acting positions. I don't think that should be relevant. Whether or not Joe Biden is going to go in with that attitude, I doubt it. He's probably gonna, fold to Republicans, and who knows? Maybe he'll, replace Neera Tanden with someone who's even, even further right. But if he does, honestly, if I was Joe Biden, that would be my advice: is obviously I would want him to be nominating leftists and not fucking Neera Tanden, but I don't think he really has to consider the nomination by Republicans if they don't win the Senate.
And just to add my 2 cents is that Neera Tanden's position isn't even a tier 1 cabinet pick. So when you have like tier 2 or tier 3, even regardless of who's president, you just don't give a fuck. Like, I mean, we'll just vote for you. No one gives a shit. The only people care about are like the big fish positions, like labor, education. That's where people actually care about stuff.
Which
I mean,
sucks
even
because OMB is like one of, if not, at least one of the most influential positions to have. Like you have your hand on the purse. You're controlling huge swaths of the budget. Like it's definitely an underrated position that people don't think about a lot. But I think
yeah,
it's definitely.
that's actually my point, because the big fish provide the biggest public scrutiny. That's why Betsy DeVos is so much hated across the country, because she's not qualified, yet she's going for the biggest education cabinet pick. The thing about the OMB you said, you're absolutely right. It's an important position, but the problem is that most people don't care about it or know, so it provides the least amount of backlash. That's why Neera Tanden is going to get in, and that's why Joe Biden. This is why corporate Democrats are so hard to fight. They have a big bench, so they can put even the most corrupt people that we leftists hate, but they put them in a small position where most people can say, hey, well, it's not something too big. I mean, so that's the problem we have.
Chris, in the comment, leave some pretty good comments. He was asking about whether you're Democrats, why you put you socialist there, Mac. But this comment, he said interesting, because I've been going to war with some communists on my Twitter. I never fight people to my left. I've been fighting authoritarian leftists, though. I'll tell you why. Chris, he said socialists who. Damn, I just lost the comment. What I said. He said, but pretty much he was saying socialists who don't believe in communism are just proto-fascists, but you learn in time.
Holy, whoa.
I mean, like I said, I don't get mad at people to my left. That's why I don't really mind the comment. I don't mind the dialogue. I was talking about libertarian socialism on my Twitter, and I was attacking the Puritan left, and I was attacking authoritarian leftists. Because there's a section of the left that are like unapologetically authoritarian, and it's something I'm running into more recently, because now my leftist sphere is opening, and I got a lot of these people who follow me who they always shocked when they learn I'm not a commie. They're like, "You not a commie?" I just don't advocate for that. That's what it is. But it was about sex work, and my position, I became anti-authoritarian before I became a leftist. You know what I mean? So one of my first things that I awoken to, I was like, okay, the government shouldn't be able to tell us what the fuck we should do. We're not harming nobody. That was the first radical thought I had, meaning that we should legalize all drugs. I didn't see any justification for making sex work illegal, because why is it okay for us to have sex, right? We have sex, but then I give you $15 for it, and all of a sudden I should get arrested by the police? The fuck? What are you talking about? And then I was talking to these. Actually, before I go on, cause I don't want to rant too long. What do you guys think on that? I'm gonna give it to you guys. I can rant on this all day. I'm gonna talk about it. What do you guys think about sex work in general?
On the sex work specifically question, or the communism versus socialism? Because I was just gonna respond.
Take it both. Take both.
Just because, on socialism and communism, like you said, I don't like punching left, but I'll engage in dialogue and stuff. And to the extent that I would classify myself as a socialist, or refrain from calling myself a communist, is just socialism is a transitionary. It's a transitionary thing, and so we have to approach this in stages. I mean, unless you think we're literally going to overthrow the entire government immediately right now, and that we're not going to have to go through any transitionary periods, then I guess you could make that argument. But I'm not against communism or anything like that in theory, but I think that we just have to go through those stages and get take it one step at a time.
What do you think, RJ? And I'll give my longer opinion on it.
I get a lot of my information about sex work from horny leftist Twitter at night. So a lot of comments. So I'm like getting research about that. But I guess I'm more libertarian about this. Like, just I guess it's a professional business. I mean, OnlyFans is picking up too around there, so I don't believe people should like throw in prison for that. I mean, just try to figure out the right protocols the right way. You don't want anyone to get shot, killed, harmed, or abused.
So
So at least,
to
yeah, go
to
ahead.
be fair, I'm gonna lay out their arguments first, cause my tweet bashing the authoritarian left went so viral it got picked up on some like the authoritarian left Reddit, and I shared it, and the comments are cringe, son. Like it's like some it's literally like evangelical shit. I will pull it up. I don't got time. Maybe I can do a more thorough segment on this on my own while I go through like the actual comments and debunk them in real time. But their argument was you cannot have sex work without it being exploitative. Exploitative. I can't say that word. Any using sex as a form to lift women out of poverty is exploitative, and that's why should get rid of it. And that's their justification for being anti-sex work, because they legitimately don't believe that these women want to do it. Even they say even the women who want to do it, they convince themselves that they want to do it because of their economic situation and because they're being crushed by capitalism. And they say, especially, and this is the criticism they had of me. They said, I don't understand authoritarianism regarding socialism and communism, because how are you going to implement socialism and communism without authoritarianism? A lot of them were saying that talking points against authoritarianism is just Western propaganda, and that's the only way we can actually implement our policies is without being authoritarian. So a lot of them were saying that. My response to that is, I don't care about your theory. My thing is, I like good ideas. So I asked this guy, I'm like, okay, so if you have a woman who wants to do sexual work, and they legitimately want to do it, will you ban it? And they all agree with them, where they say, yeah, they will ban it if she wants to do it. Now, once again, we can have a debate whether authoritarianism is needed to implement communism or implement socialism. Once again, that theory doesn't mean anything to me. I care about your ideas. Now, if you are telling me that you want to ban people from exchanging money for having sex, that's a bad idea. No matter how your theory want to twist and turn it. Because I actually know people. I had people that messaged me during the time, like sex workers. And there was some lady, I'm not going to say her name obviously, but she was telling me how she was pretty financially well off. She financially well off. She said she had a good job, but she has an OnlyFans, and she like posting naked pictures or stuff on Twitter because she said it helped liberate her. Like she said it helped. That's her way of expressing herself. She's a highly sexual person, and she don't demonize that. So if you're one of the people that say you want to ban sex work, you're gonna stop her from doing what she was doing. So if you are pushing that ideology, you gotta understand that there's literally no amount of theory you can quote to me that'll make me agree with you. And the reason why, because in order to have this central authority that tell people what to do with their lives, you gotta have people running that. And what do you know about this country? Institutionally racist. Guess who's gonna be aimed at the most? Just like they are now, when you push authoritarian policies like these, disenfranchised communities, just like the drug war, the new Jim Crow. Who that target the most? African Americans. Just like sex work would target African Americans the most. So I'll let you go right. 1 second, RJ. I'll get right to this. So the part I agree with is when they say they don't want sex work to be a thing because they don't want capitalism to exploit people. Okay, this is why I don't like your authoritarian approach. Because imagine a scenario where we have Medicare for all, a living wage, tuition-free college, no student debt, a UBI monthly. So let's say we have just these basic policies in place, right? And people are well off because we have these policies. Will you still ban sex work in that situation? Like, if we have Medicare for all, we have UBI, we have a guaranteed $20 per hour minimum wage. So there's literally, like, in this situation, you can find a good job, you can have health care. If you will still ban sex work in that situation, I just disagree with your ideology. Period. Because at that point, it's not just capitalism. It's you wanting to control people. You want to control people's morality. You want to control them you want to tell them what to do. Because what if I just personally disagree with you on this? You want to lock me up by the government? That's what authoritarians want. They can sugarcoat all they want because that way they go ahead, RJ.
One element too I think you're missing is religion.
Yep.
Religion is a part of the culture in American politics and the American electorate. So, I mean, just think of gay marriage. For the longest, people who were homosexual, they couldn't get married for the longest because it was against politicians' religious beliefs and against a lot of other people's religious beliefs, and it didn't even come legal until 2013. And so, I mean, that's common among right-wing evangelicals and left-wing Catholics. So that's kind of the barrier you're gonna have to face.
And I'm trying to see what I'm trying to see. I'm trying to make sure I get Chris Kyle's point before I respond. Keeping sex on the table, just like okay. So he agrees with me, but he did bring up human trafficking, and this one I actually did see authoritarians on. They were saying like, oh, you can have human trafficking. Once again, I talked to sex workers about this, and they actually get offended when you bring it up because sex trafficking is not sex work. That's a crime. We talking about you know how sex trafficking exists? Sex trafficking exists because we literally created a black market by making sex work illegal. So when people bring that up, I'm like, bro, I see people tweet that like, oh, I wish I can get all of you. Because that's the dumbest argument you can possibly make against sex work. Because you're like, oh, we can't legalize sex work because sex trafficking. Okay, so your policy just enable it even more. Once again, that's why the authoritarian approach doesn't work. Because that's the same people that say, oh, we got to have a drug war because we don't want people to use drugs.
I was just about to bring up that analogy.
Yeah. I'll give you the floor, Matt. What are you thinking on this? I'm back.
What's up? What were you saying?
Yeah, I know you said you probably bring that up, but in general, agree, disagree where I'm coming from? Because that's only reason I'm even addressing this is because I saw so many, vast majority of this support, because my tweet went pretty viral, but I made authoritarian leftist so mad. And I was just seeing them repeat bad arguments like a bad right winger would make, and I didn't see them justify authoritarianism to me. Because they would just quote theory. They were like, well, this guy said authoritarianism is good. We had this guy who was preaching. I'm like, no, that don't mean that your particular idea about banning sex work is good.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think there's a big gap in like the discourse of what you're talking about, of people who are like referencing theory in this or referencing like, some far off ideal of how they want the country to be organized. But what you're talking about, and what I think is the better point, is like with the situation we have right now, regardless of like if you think sex work is immoral or not, which I don't, but regardless, the situation that we have now requires that if your goal is to like make this a safer process, and like you were just saying, instead of having it be this like black market thing where you're putting everybody involved is more at risk with it being stigmatized and illegal, everyone is being put at greater risk, and it's not solving, even if you think that sex work is a problem, that's not solving it. That's not solving your problem that you claim exists regardless. So I don't think that it makes sense to ban it. I don't think that it's the same, like you were saying, it's like the same with the drug war. It's like you don't win the drug war by outlawing drugs and stuff like that and just continuing to hyper police these communities and stuff like that. That's not how you win. You win by legalizing and regulating and doing all that.
I was just about. Oh, sorry, RJ. Right after this, I was just about to address this comment because Chris is the. Once again, I appreciate you, Chris. I'm not attacking you. I'm engaging my audience, and I don't mind people pushing back against my stream. Actually, I don't mind that at all. He said 10% of this country being exploited over sex to live this shit. I don't know what you're saying there, but he's saying that society will go down faster than a cinder block. It's super unhealthy for society. I'm not even authoritarian, just facing facts. And it's funny because the comment right after that literally. Well, I laughed earlier because he literally said what I was about to say. Because you know what sex workers say? Because once again, I know a lot of them off through my Twitter. They say like, bro, how is sex exploitative but labor isn't? So you're gonna not, are you proposing we ban all labor? Which I guess that's a far left belief. But how can you say that's exploitative but our sex workers are selling their body? That's a term that they do. You're selling your body. We're selling our body when you work in a factory job 12 hours a day. Amazon workers are selling their body because they got pee in fucking cups and bottled water. So go ahead, RJ. But that's pretty much the point. I was literally just about to say that, but then someone in the comment point that out. Like, yeah, it's labor, bro. It's not any other form of labor. And once again, why is it okay to have sex with someone, but I give you $15, and all of a sudden society's gonna crumble? Like, that doesn't make sense at face value to me. Go ahead, RJ.
The only chance I see, local, state, and federal governments being okay with sex work unless there's a sex tax. So, the only time. Like, I mean, there's a marijuana tax, and all they increase the sales tax for marijuana, which is why state governments say, this is great for us. So that's basically the only way I can potentially see that working out.
What study was that, NYC? There's another comment that say you gotta apply STDs. Oh, no, she asking. Never mind, sorry. You asking, has there been a study done if sex work will increase STD? And I was actually I thought you were saying it did. I was like, no, that's not true, because countries like Australia where they legalize sex work, that actually is safer for the workers because you're now regulated. So, like, I admit, this is not the best source, because I got this from Jim Jeffries during his comedy special. He talked about this. So, not the best source, I admit. But he said, during his special talking about sex work, like, those girls get tested all the time. Like, the sex workers in Australia, like, once a week. If that, I might be understanding it. It's like a ridiculous amount of time to get tested. So, I was about to get mad at you, but I read your comment again. I think you did. I think you brought up that you was just asking. And to answer your question, just based on the countries that legalized it, it's actually safer for the workers. So, once again, that's just another argument. As a libertarian socialist, I said it many times. Your ideas and your policies must justify themselves to me. So once again, if banning sex work was proven to work, like if there are countries that completely ban sex work and then there's no black market, like there's no sex rings, there's STDs problems, there's not a problem by doing that, I'm like, okay, I guess we got to ban sex work. Hey, what can I do? Shit works. But it doesn't. By banning sex work, you actually make it dangerous for workers and the Johns. Like, everyone involved is more dangerous for. That's how pimp. Like, another comment that people make, and once again, I can go all day ranting about the stupid comments I heard in opposition to me. One of the comments, they was like, oh, well, you got all these pimps that are exploiting workers. Like, bro, pimps not existing. And with these highly regulated brothels, like, there's a lot of regulations. The whole thing they talking about pimp being the shit out of women and taking all their money, not existing when you got regulated sex work. Once again, a very bad point I kept seeing people bring up. But with that said, we're nearing the end of the stream here. I'm trying to close out some of the chats here. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Follow, subscribe. If you don't, like I said, I usually stream in the afternoons. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday are short bets. I'm trying to be more consistent, so I'm planning on having a stream tomorrow as well. So continue to check me out, guys. I appreciate all you guys watching, like, subscribe. I'm gonna just read a few more of the comments in here. We can log off here pretty soon. Once again, you guys see I have my Patreon, my PayPal, and my link to my YouTube on the screen here. I appreciate you guys support me. Once again, I'm just a citizen journalist, just working with the equipment I have. So anything that will help. Chris said, "Having sex is not a revolution." This is the Puritan left I was talking about. He said having sex is not a revolutionary act unless you're Native American. Who cares if it's a revolutionary act? People, I mean, when I brought Puritan left, people were like, what is that? Like, bro, trust me. Who cares?
Have people not read the book called Lysistrata? Like, are you serious? Do you know about Lysistrata?
I'm not too familiar. Not on top of my head, at least. Well, at least Meg. When Meg said, if you believe sex is not a means of production, you need to read social reproduction theory. And they was like, what? Are you like? I'm arguing with you in good faith, but you kind of lost me there, bro. Who cares if sex is revolutionary or not? People are having fun, bro. People are having fucking fun. Sex work is not bad. Damn it. I hate when they make me lose my choice. I was getting a few of the comments. We need to call it here. Most people seem to agree. Like, Chris, I appreciate you. Like, I'm not dogging on you, bro. I'm just responding because I don't mind people who engage in conversation and don't necessarily agree. People who being exploited, kill. Like I said, like, you understand my goal, bro. Like, my goal is to end exploitation and then minimize authoritarianism. So if you implement the policies that I want to implement, Medicare for all, a UBI, a living wage that actually tied to inflation, not the $15 per hour bullshit. I'm talking about $25, $30 an hour. If you pay A1 that amount of money, give them a UBI, give them access to free college, give them access to free health care, and you still want to ban people that want to do sex work, You're just a rank authoritarianism because I'm not seeing the exploitation there. At that point, they want to do it because they want to do it. He said, y'all get an OnlyFans. All right, now I feel like you're getting frustrated. He said, all right, y'all get an OnlyFans then. No, that's the thing. As a libertarian, I think you should be able to do that if you want to. I don't want to do that. But as a libertarian, I think you should be able to do that if you want to do that. But if you want to do that and someone shuts you down, that's authoritarianism. I don't agree with it. No matter what kind of theory you want to quote to me. Like, I don't agree with it. He said, did I miss the part complaining about Neera Tanden? Yep, sorry, bro. I'm going to cut the segment out and put it on YouTube. Because I usually have the replays fully played on YouTube. But for that particular segment, I'm going to cut and edit it so you guys can get my particular thoughts on Neera Tanden. So that's why, once again, I got the YouTube on my screen. Follow the YouTube if you missed the whole stream or if you want to see cut out segments. Because that's what I'll have down on my channel. Public citizen. He said sex should be special. Who said it should be special? That's why I don't like authoritarianism, bro. Like, 'cause in order to be authoritarian, you have to push your beliefs on people. So, for example, you said sex should be special. That's why we should ban sex work. I don't agree, bro. How you gonna ban me from doing some shit on some shit I don't even agree with you with? That's the problem with authoritarianism. You gotta understand that. And actually, that's all there is to say to it. If someone else if someone sees sex as just as something that you should exchange monetary value with, who the fuck is the government to tell them they can't do that? Does prostitution bring out the best in humanity? Maybe if you legalize it. Once again, if you implement my policy and you reduce the exploitation, just with the basic, like I said, you don't have to go full comedy. I think if you implement the policy I laid out, how can you say that it's good? It's not a good. How can you not say it's a good situation? We have willing participants in a society that eliminates as much exploitation as possible. Once again, I can get to some more of my other policies as well. It's down the board. Down for a 4-day work week. Down for a UBI. I'm down for a real living wage. Free college. Medicare for all. I'm down for all these policies. So once you get that implemented, how can you say there's someone doing something against their will? You want your family members to be prostitutes? No, I don't. But I don't think the government should arrest them. Like, so you gotta ask yourself, what are you implying by having your policy instead? For example, public citizen, you said, do you want your family members to be prostitutes? No, I don't. But imagine if they did. What if they do become prostitutes? Do I think they should be arrested? So I'll propose that question to you. If you have someone in your family who got into prostitution, you don't want them to do that. Do you think they should be arrested? Think. That's your implication. Do you think they should be arrested? Because again, I personally disagree. I wouldn't want them to be prostitutes, but I don't want them to be arrested. That's why I'm anti-authoritarian. If you have your personal belief, live your belief through your life, not through government. And that's why I don't like authoritarian leftists. Like, I don't like authoritarian right. Like, they are the same people I don't consider my allies. Because you're pushing this idea that, hey, this is how I believe life should be. And anyone who don't believe life should be this way, I should lock in prison. Right? He said, you can't be serious. I don't know. I just don't get... they were talking about the dude. They're like, dude, you can't be serious. Every child grows up dreaming of having sex for... What? Oh, Meg, like, all sex is transactional, blah, blah. So there's some good debate. People debating in my chat. I'm gonna call it. I think I addressed most of the concerns here. Everyone should have a meaningful job that is beneficial to the community. I never said ban sex. Okay, that's important. I'm glad you said that, Chris. You said I never said ban sex work. Okay, if you said that, I agree with you. We on the same page. Because that literally all it goes down to. The reason why I got upset at that guy, and the reason why that tweet went viral, because I specifically asked him if someone had ideal life situations and they wanted to do it, would you ban it? He said yes. Those are the people I don't consider myself allies. Like, we can have a disagreement. We can fight all I want about sex work, but if you don't want to ban it, I got no problem with your opinion. I mean, sex workers would be pissed. But I don't care what people think of me. Like, the same when I smoke. I don't care if you get mad if I smoke weed. I don't care. At the end of the day, as long as you're not trying to ban it. I wouldn't call them a troll. Listen, I think they just Maybe they are trolling, but I want people to hear the counter arguments. But anyway, I think that was good. We did an hour on the reset stream, hour and a half on the first one. That went to start going jangy. Anyway, follow, subscribe.